Bonjour, hello, welcome to Mac's Mountain World. Bonjour, hello. Today I thought I'd do a video on my own weather prediction. Weather is a pretty important part of my life. Weather forecasting, prediction, analysis is a particular interest of mine. Has been for many years. So here's the video. I have this just a couple of hundred meters down the road from where I live, and it's obviously fully internet connected. And also their garden, and a little bit of a garden with a bit of a difference, obviously has all the gear as I head back to the village from the Maison de la Météo, the house of weather forecast. I'll just explain that in the mountains here, the weather systems that affect it are very, well, extremely dynamic. What happens is the systems come in, and depending on what direction the systems come in, the mountains just make total shit of what's going on, basically. There's three factors to the weather systems that come in, three directions. First one is the direction of the actual system arriving. Second one is the system's weather within that system. What happens? The weather comes in, and it usually comes in turning round and round and round, and what happens is you can end up with the wind coming from one direction, the system coming from another direction, and individual aspects within that system coming from yet another direction. This is best seen, best witnessed by the direction of what clouds are happening. It also is affected by what altitude things are happening as well, and the altitude is affected by what it hits, whether it hits big mountains, little mountains, whether it's coming off a flat plain. There's so many different aspects to it all. It's very difficult to predict, but having lived here for a couple of years, I get to know what goes on. I get to understand what's going to happen with particular systems, particular things that are going on at particular times of year. Now, the various international and national weather forecasters, they've got huge computer systems that predict this stuff. They input history, they input what's going on, and combine it all and produce what they can come up with for a general weather system, a general weather forecast for the whole country, the whole world, the whole zone, Europe, whatever. But what I am interested in is what happens here, or what happens to a place I'm going to, if I'm going to visit another part of the Alps or head down south or whatever. So I have to come up with an analysis based on what I see on the telly and all sorts of other factors. I have maybe input from about 10, 12 different things that I would be using to formulate my own opinion on what is likely to happen. Never what is going to happen, because that is never correct. Now, the first indications obviously will come from what you experience, visual, auditory, and what you feel. So there's quite a bit of obvious stuff, you know, what the clouds are doing, what shape the clouds are, just what colour they are and things like that. But there's a few hidden ones that's not obvious to everyone. Now, one of these is what the clouds are actually doing. And what I'm going to do here is I'm going to just leave the camera running and we'll just check out these clouds. I'll do a sped up version of the next few minutes and we'll see the different directions of the different clouds at different altitudes. Now hopefully that's come out showing the different movements of different clouds, what they're up to. Okay, now just kind of look around. Got a huge grey number here. Now with knowledge of the direction of the system, of the wind, of whatever, then quite easy to see whether that would be coming over or not, or bypassing us. And got to just kind of point away from the sun a bit here. But what I'll do is I'll run off another one that, without pointing to the sun, obviously, I'll speed up the next bit as well. So there we go, that's kind of the visual. And there's one other aspect that gives us a bit of an indication of stuff, which I've covered in previous videos, but I'll just do another one here, and hopefully this will be quite a bit clearer with me using my upmarket tripod. Now, using my own knowledge and experience obviously has a lot to do with it. Here we have two planes. One is, I'm sure it's just taken off from this guy here is taken off from Marseille, and it's still rising up. It's not actually gained any altitude. It's got no contrail. Now, ahead of me here, and I hope I'm catching this because it's very difficult to do in the viewfinder, you can play around by looking, you can analyse by looking at what the contrails are doing. If the contrails are short, the atmosphere is dry. If the contrails are long, then the atmosphere is a bit more humid. So this one's quite a short contrail, so it's pretty dry. It's not that humid. Now it's not possible for me today to show the next aspect, but when the weather isn't that great and the contrails are very long, then what happens is you can study what the contrails are doing, whether they're broken up, whether they're moving in a certain direction, all sorts of things. It gives us a lot of telltales. Now again, my own knowledge and experience, I do watch quite a lot of stuff on the internet to do with flying, to do with aircraft, and one particularly good site is a site called Mentor Pilot. I'll put a link in down below, and it gives me a lot of knowledge, plus I look at other stuff, Flight Radar 24, things like that. And my knowledge is, for example, I watched an Air France plane go past earlier. Very easy to see here at altitude because there's about 2 kilometres less atmosphere for just looking at this stuff. And it had no contrail at all, but it had taken off from a local airport south of here, and it had no contrail at all. I also saw a plane with 4 contrails, which meant it was a big one, a jumbo jet or a A380 or something, and it had quite a long one, but that contrail disappeared pretty quickly as well. So it evaporated quickly, meaning it was dry up there. But it was away up in the Gulf Stream, so it doesn't really count, but it does give an indication because the Gulf Stream ultimately brings in the weather systems. Experience and knowledge thing, I do diversify to a situation that I encountered once. I used to do quite a bit of speedboating, powerboating, water skiing, wakeboarding. When I lived in Ireland, I used to go into Loch Derg in the lake, play around there with a lot of friends, a lot of boats. And one time I was there for a weekend, and on a Sunday morning I predicted there was one hell of a storm coming in, and very quickly took the boat back out of the water. In so doing, queuing to go down was a local police marine unit who were about to launch, and I said to them, "Your timing's bad." And they said, "Oh well, it's okay." And what happened was I got all my boat tied down to the trailer, and I got it all secured, weatherproofed and everything, and about 5 minutes later the heavens opened, the whole lake turned black with cloud, and got really rough. And I watched these guys, and indeed they ended up being rescued because they got into difficulties at about 2, 3, 4 kilometres out. So my knowledge was better than these guys. Nice. Now, back in the Max Mountain World man cave, obviously a couple more sources of information. One is the telly, and the other is the internet. Now, here's a little map of France, and what happens is that our weather comes in normally from the west. In the winter it'll come in from the northwest. Mostly in the summer it'll come in generally southwest. And this is something that I keep in mind, especially when we get a little bit more localised into the region where I am, down in 05, which is Provence, Alps, Côte d'Azur. And my location is roughly central in the picture that we have here. So with my knowledge of where all the mountain ranges are and whatnot, it's quite easy to take all the information that I've gathered in my head and put it into a bit of perspective to formulate a local weather prediction. Some of my info comes from this site, as I mentioned before, Mentor Pilot. It's a Ryanair pilot who has his own YouTube channel, and it's most informative for us nerds who love learning stuff and knowing stuff about flying, about planes, about all that subject. Here's the Flight Radar 24 site, which is quite interesting. It never ceases to amaze me just how many aircraft are in the skies at any one time. But it's you focus in on the area, and quite often I'll see an aircraft, and just out of curiosity, when it's above, I'll just go and have a wee zoom in and just see what that aircraft is. Quite often use it when I have visitors coming. I can trace what their flight is doing as well, and you can zoom right in actually, and you can actually click on the aircraft, get all the information on the aircraft. But the whole point in showing this is that in playing around with this site, I get quite a good knowledge of where the bigger aircraft are, like the jumbos, like the A380s and stuff, and I can get an idea of what direction they generally are going in. So zooming in on where I am here, which is where the little paw is, I can see Savine-le-Lac, Lac-Serre-Ponson, and Savine-le-Lac is a little village at the side of it. And I can zoom in on where we are, and just on the left here there's a little aircraft. It's whatever, I can click on that and see that it's just a little whatever it is. It's all the information on the aircraft is there. what altitude it is, the direction it is. That one's at 29,999 feet. What speed it's doing, where it took off from, where it's going, its codes and everything. And you can actually click on and look at all the history of certain aircraft as well. So if I went outside now, I'd probably be able to watch this guy going past. It's a very small aircraft, and at that altitude it might be a bit difficult to see it. But this is where I get the knowledge from. And also, just zooming back out, you can see the layout of the mountains and stuff as well. Another site that I look at when especially when there's inclement weather approaching, is lightningmaps.org. It's a fascinating site. When the storms, over the left here you get a general picture of Europe and where all the lightning strikes are. There's a lot happening to the south of us here. For example, the south of Italy and over towards the Balkans is getting some pretty thrashy storms going on here. And quite often I can formulate an opinion. I can see stuff coming in from southwest or wherever, and when I go storm chasing I study this just to see what's happening. And when certain storms are in a certain direction, I know that it's going to come into our valley here, and I know that it's going to likely to be producing some pretty spectacular storms for satisfying my passion for photography of storms. So there's also the weather forecasting sites as well. There's also this MSN weather app that I use, but unfortunately I'm going to be losing that on Monday. They're going to switch it off. I don't know why, but it's fantastic. They've already switched off the satellite imagery for it, but that gives all the information on more longer term stuff, the next stuff that's going to be happening in the next 10 days or whatever. And again, you can click on, it gives maximum, minimum temperatures, it gives histories, it gives the current temperature, which 26 degrees, yeah, is pretty warm, and that is warm for up here at this time of year. Small heat wave going through France just now. If I click on the actual day today, it'll give me all the information on what's happening with it, what's happening hour by hour, the percentage chance of precipitation, things like that, whether it's going to be clear, cloudy, stormy, snowy, whatever. And as I say, it's just kind of messed about a lot with recently. It has history and stuff, but I'm not really interested in what's happened. I'm interested in what's going to be happening or what's likely to be happening. And before, they used to have over here, they used to have one of these pages was satellite imagery, where you could actually watch the precipitation approaching and stuff. It's only an app that I'm losing. I can still actually get this on the net, so not too much of a problem really. I've also got another one I use, is snowforecast.com. It's not just snow forecast, it's handy in the winter for watching snow forecast. It's pretty accurate, especially for if I'm visiting other ski stations. I can go and look and see what their snow forecast is. The snow forecast, it can change mountain to mountain, valley to valley, range to range, and this is very useful for predicting what is likely to be happening. Here it's predicting storms later on, so it'll be interesting if that happens. Unfortunately, the car's in the garage just now, so there's no chance of going hunting, but I don't think that's 100% right. Again, the predictability of these sites is quite often marred by the dynamicism of the weather systems that hit the Alps. Another one that I look at that's useful all year round, not just in winter, is j2ski.com. It's a skiing thing, but it still comes up with fascinatingly accurate predictions. Again, it's showing predictions of thunderstorms today and clear weather after. But it also goes into, this is where snow is likely, but it's obviously this time of year it's not going to snow. But it gives day by day stuff. showing all the temperatures, wind directions, wind strengths, minimums, maximums, sunny, clear, cloudy, stormy, whatever. It's saying new snow, but it's also saying it's between 2,446 metres and 2,292 metres, which is way up the top. So that storm, if it's strong enough, that's coming in next week, this will change as it gets closer. That'll produce perhaps a little bit of snow in the peaks of the mountains. Maybe a bit of rain below.
Dans de nombreuses régions, va respirer un petit peu mieux.
So here we go. We have the television one, obviously.
Ciel bleu et 24 degrés attendus au thermomètre. Des nuages qui arrivent en revanche par le nord-ouest avec cette perturbation ici qui arrive sur la pointe bretonne qui donne quelques pluies cet après-midi. Des nuages qui gagnent également le Cotentin.
And this is pretty good for just seeing the general situation of the whole country and the way that systems are coming in and what's happening to them. It's really quite informative, with the added bonus that France's television stations have the most gorgeous weather girls. And
la perturbation se décale et sous la perturbation les températures vont bien chuter, on va perdre une dizaine de degrés. Ailleurs le temps restera calme avec des températures à nouveau bien chaudes.
There we go. So that having finished, and just to finalise, on my second computer, here's one of the photographs that I managed to get when I was out storm chasing. Very cool, eh? So there we have it. This is the Max Mountain World Weather Prediction Service. I have many clients coming here who this is a sort of side spin-off from all this. Quite a few clients who obviously know that I'm here, that I live here, that whatever, and I get asked the question, so oh no, what's the weather going to do today? What's the weather going to do tomorrow? And I come up with some astonishingly accurate stuff, especially if I've been looking into it regarding something that I'm going to be doing. Quite often I've amazed people with saying, well, it's going to start raining at 5 o'clock, and never more than half an hour away. Stuff like that. So aside from that, as I say, it is an interest of mine. It always has been, with the various sports and activities that I've done. I've mentioned the boating thing already, but when I was in Ireland I used to fly about in microlights, what the French call ULM. And I've done all sorts of things, with all the mountain rambling, with the skiing, with all sorts of things. Quite often it's not just a case of predicting weather to arrive at a situation of comfort. Sometimes you get it wrong, it can be damn dangerous, especially up here in the mountains. So there we go. Max Mountain World Weather Predicting.